Good evening, everyone. Thank you, SISGIS, for this opportunity. And I'll directly start sharing my screen from here. Um, and allow me to also kind of turn off my video so that we'll have better connectivity. So my screen is visible.
Yes, it is
Yes,
visible. Yes.
Okay.
please go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, so the topic is something called conceptualizing peace, contemporary education dialogues in India. Especially dialogues, this list becomes really important for us to discuss because the world is dying metaphorically, not only metaphorically, but literally. And, tides of nationalism and in the sea both are high. So such dialogues really become important. Um, I'm talking about peace and that too through education. And it comes with a big question mark. Is it feasible? Is it possible? Um, it seems like it's not possible because education has its own history of contribution to violence. It has, and especially education's discourse about criticism of education has come to forefront in the contemporary discourse in only in modern times only. And the second school of thought also believes that why education can't contribute to peace is because schooling interferes with education. Especially, they come up with this belief that what education reforms are trying to improve upon has little to do with education but schooling. So there's a lot of questions on whether we can contribute towards peace through education. For this, better alignment of my research area with this conference, I have termed security, non-traditional security, as peace, and I will see how it fits in peace as a component fits in traditional security and non-traditional security. In terms of traditional security, it fits in. To the definition of something called negative peace, which was provided by Johann Galtung, who was called father of peace studies. And it's primarily conceptualized as absence of war or physical violence. And in terms of non-traditional security, it fits into the concept of positive peace, again conceptualized by Galtung, which is called absence of structural violence or cultural violence, and also presence of certain important values. Now, the discourse becomes very limiting in a way that attending to structural and cultural violence is extremely difficult. So attaining peace in quote unquote pedestrian nature has become really difficult because structural and cultural violence is pretty invisible. It works through in very insidious mechanisms. The peace education discourse has attended to it in different ways. So it has attended to negative peace in form of, peace studies or peace management courses like international relations, diplomacy, conflict resolution, peace building, and mediation, or that sort of areas, or as a disciplinary subject. While at least in research, we have something called a particular research area called stemming out of peace studies only, something called education for peace, which is my research area, and critical peace education. It looks at society and criticizes society and its structures and see where the sources of violence lies. And on the positive aspect in terms of positive values, it attends to something called socio-emotional learning skills, mindfulness in children. But again, attending to all this, we can't gain much out of all this unless and until we attend to the structural or the cultural violence which is built inside the systems, which is invisible, which is not available, not visible to naked eye. So we can't gain much out of peace education discourse, which is going in the education system besides metaphorically anything out of that. I'll aid my interpretation here from Professor Krishna Kumar's personal interview, which I took it for the research. And he defines peace education in its pedestrian nature as an attempt to paper over conflicts, as a coping up mechanism with violence. And, this sort of peace education effort becomes kind of attracts criticism as a soft psychology or a self-help kind of an area, because it helps you adjust, or it helps you, cope up with violence. It doesn't let the violence come out. It just makes you more comfortable with violence. And he gives an analogy of Delhi's air, which I find very interesting, that, you get so accustomed to it that you don't find anything radically harmful with it. So same goes with education. It helps you develop adjustment capacities, coping up capacities with violence, then you are, fixing the goal of education a few notches down. You are not giving you're not allowing the education to perform its true role. So what he says is, if education has to be, it in itself has to be redefined, if it has to be redirected towards peace. This is the second section of my presentation, where I take the concept of Foucauldian concept of governmentality, which is the art of governance, to aid my interpretation. That how structural violence as a method, structural violence is existing all around us. It's so invisible, and in fact, its methods are so invisible. So again, it's all about control. Foucault tells us that it's the art of conducting the conduct of the people. It's so invisible that it captivates, it capitalizes on the desire of the people to govern themselves. So it just, it trains us that our agency is being exercised in everything we do. So it uses a range of procedures and techniques which is used to guide us and control us. And the best part about it is based on willing participation of the governed, which is also based on their active participation. So it's very ironical that we participate in our own control and we don't know about it. I'll rather give an analogy here that imagine a teacher not punishing the student for what he doesn't like, but rather rewarding the student for what he likes. So it becomes so insidious and so invisible that we don't even realize that it's part of, the status quo is being maintained and we are not aware of it. And I like to quote here from Foucault's book called Subject and Power, and I'll be happy if you can read it with me. That Foucault states that states' disciplinary power cannot be exercised without knowing the inside of people's mind, without exploring their souls, without making them reveal their innermost secrets. It implies knowledge of the conscience and an ability to direct it. And I have seen, this pedagogical markers of governmentality in my own research work. So I was at this international residential school in India, where I did my ethnographic study. And apparently the paper, which is a draft paper and it's titled Social Distance, Violence and Peace, talks about it, that how, and this paper is about cross class encounters and how power relation functions. And in this paper, you will see that there's a visible markers of social proximity between relationships which are disciplinary in nature, which are hierarchical in nature. So there was a lot of social proximity between the student and the teacher and the taught, the principal and the student, the principal and the staff. So we have this sort of a structure was very visible in ethnographic narratives. So we realized that academic category has softened over the years. The schools don't work as a total institutions anymore, which in Goffman's sense were very tight and very stiff. Especially the state policy discourse has moved towards quality education in terms of peace ideals, which is no longer, the reality in schools are no longer oppressive or gloomy as it used to be. And teachers are more under review and are more accountable towards their students. So what does this all mean? That this informality provided by new humanitarian, is it against the traditional disciplinary? Does this mean the school, this helps dilute school as a disciplinary site? Does this mean the social proximity juxtaposed the idea of a good discipline? Does this diminishes the capacity of school as a total institution? Out of my fieldwork, I found it did not. No, it's just a new sort of a grip, because it asserts power in a more intimate and a more interesting fashion. It's so captivating that this informal pedagogy is so captivating that it makes the learner feel part of a system which was earlier depersonalized. It's blanketing and it's enveloping in a way that its strength lies in the fact that it's non-aggressive and it's intimate. So the structural violence that still remains, but what we have found is a new way to deal with it, a new way which is so insidious and so hidden that we don't even realize it. So that was from my end, and that was my presentation.